interest.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. Sawadee Krap, it is me again. I was requested to repeat what I have said earlier because I think some of us was rushing out for lunch before. Okay, so I think I better stay at the side of the stage. Maybe it's clear for you to see it. All right. In November this year, beginning from 15 to 17 of November, we are going to have International Union of Architects, UIA, a special forum. It is UIA International Forum, Kuala Lumpur 2024. The forum will be in Kuala Lumpur. So the forum actually is organized by International Union of Architects together with Malaysian Institute of Architects. The theme for the forum is diversity. The discussion is about how a diverse culture and a diverse nation, multiracial, multi-faith can live together to develop the nation. So when this was explained during the UIA bidding to host, we explained how actually in the city that we can live and develop the city together. So after winning the bid, we presented to the council that this is the icon of Kuala Lumpur. Before the existence of Petronas Twin Towers, this is the icon of Kuala Lumpur, Sultan Abdul Samad building. This building was built more than 100 years ago, and it has witnessed a lot of things happening in Kuala Lumpur city. So it's very diverse in terms of culture, in terms of social diversity in culture, diversity in architecture as well. If you can see that there's the building, there are multiple buildings behind it, surrounding in the 70s, in the 80s. But the classic one that this is new buildings, which is 118-story tower, the world's second tallest building, was built on the heritage site. When the government at first decided to demolish the heritage building, the Independence Stadium, to put this building, we have fought for it. We said we should keep the Independence Stadium so that the building was constructed adjacent to the site without touching the heritage buildings. If you can see, on the pink color, actually, the two Independence Stadium and National Stadium, it was built in 1960s. So the building was kept today. So the tower was constructed, the magenta color, 180-story tower was constructed without touching the heritage building. So this building was recently completed last year, end of last year. So we have visited the building. So that is now open. The building is open to public. So this is the building was designed by Carl Fender from Fender Casellidis Architect, based in Melbourne, Australia, in collaboration with the Malaysian architect or RSP Architects. If you look at the atrium, that is the world's tallest atrium, 40-story high atrium. And the forum is going to be held from 15 to 17 of November, the day one of the forum, on the 15th November, and until 17th of November. And after that, they follow with the General Assembly. But those who are not attending the General Assembly, on the 18th of November, there will be a technical visit to that building, which is called Merdeka 118. So you can fill up the form, online form at the website if you intended to come and visit the building. Other than that, there are of course other city tour programs as well during the forum. So these among the speakers that have already agreed to attend. Among the speakers that have confirmed to attend the UIA forum, among them are Kai Yue from BIG, Bijak Angels Group, Wang Shu, the Pritzker Prize winner, Carl Fender, the designer of the 118, the world's second tallest building, Roland Schneiser from Foster and Partner Associate, another Pritzker Prize winner, Shigeru Ban, Professor Carlos Moreno, who is famous for 15-minute cities. And there are many other speakers as well. So as I have to rush through, okay, so important notice that I want to mention that those who are attending this program today, you can capture or you can take your phone, capture the image, ASA Expo 2024. So if you register by keying this code, you can get the discount. And it's only valid until 7th of May. You have like 3-4 more days to do that. And for young architect, age 40 years old and below, and student, the Malaysian government actually is giving a free hotel stay for 3 nights in Kuala Lumpur. And we still have 13 more rooms available. So those who are coming, please register and contact us. So first come, first serve basis. So 13 more rooms still available at this moment. So this all the detail you can capture, all the information from the website. So this is where the forum is going to be, next to the Petronas Twin Towers and the hotels. All this information available at our website. There are a lot of hotels around it. It can be as low as $20-30. Okay, so this will for those who are interested to participate in the exhibition. I think I will rush through to the last one. I would like to thank ASA once more. Thank you very much. Kapung Kap.
Thank you very much, Insumi Hasanu, for sharing the interesting forum with us. Anyone who is interested, you can join in November 15 to 17 in UAE Forum 2024 in Kuala Lumpur. Now it's time for the second session from our esteemed speaker from France with the topic of Architecture and Context by Antoine Chaaya, a panel director of Renzo Building Workshop, who will lead us to understand more about what architecture in context does mean and what context does mean. Please join me to welcome Antoine Chaaya.
Sawadee krap. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this, to be part of this big event. The topic is extremely interesting. In order to frame my presentation, I would like to show you some slides in order to try to explain what I will be showing later on with the picture. So, critical regionalism and architecture in context, all about collective language. I choose to talk about architecture in context because I believe is more general vision of the topic with a wider range of components that come into play all together and goes beyond appearance, beyond the building formal aspect. So architecture is not only about exercise of style or mimicking a specific architecture style. Architecture, above all, is a real science. The city is a kind of living organism, is a large puzzle where buildings are really piece of this puzzle. In fitting in their appropriate place, building can create urban harmony, helping in achieve continuity in the urban fabric and creating urban life. And because architecture is not only about designing building, but also about creating place for people to enhance and promote urban life. To start, and before sharing the images, I would like to clarify what architecture in context does mean, what context does mean, and which context do we mean. The context component could be direct or indirect. Could be direct, such as urban, architectural, environmental, technical, geotechnical, but they could be also indirect. That means social, cultural, anthropological, historical, ethnological, but even political, because architecture, urbanism, and politics are very much connected. The context could be more obvious and visible when it's strongly related to the environment, that means the site. And Marina this morning was talking about the inspiration coming always from the site, because the site provides the sense of the place, the soul of the place, its DNA. The question becomes more complex and more subtle when it's related to indirect context. The direct context component are physically related to the site. They could be urban, that include the urban fabric conditions, the massing articulation, local code, regulation. They could be also architectural, material and colors, local architecture component, relationship with the space. It's more about learning from the architecture context than mimicking specific architectural style. It could be also environmental, the site condition, weather, sun exposure, wind, rain, acoustic conditions, could be technical or geotechnical component, which in addition to the cost and schedule implication, it could significantly influence the building architecture. The notion of context becomes more subtle and complex when it's related to indirect contexts such as social, human, cultural, anthropological, ethnological, historical, archaeological, and even political, as I said previously. It could be also a combination of several components. So prioritizing, it's very important process. When we come to the site, we have all these components, so how to choose How do we know what is primary and what is secondary? And most importantly, we need to understand when we obey and comply with the context, or sometime when we disobey and we don't comply with the context, to create a positive tension between the context and the project or the existing conditions for the project best interest. Finally, the absence of the context is the absence of the constraint. The constraint gives sense to the solution. So how to work without constraint? In reality, in listening carefully to the spirit of the site, there is always a component of context that could be found. If not, we have to create it. Now, I would like to share with you some project, and I will try to explain the site condition implication on the architectural thing. Just to start, this is the Jean-Marie Djibaou Cultural Center in New Caledonia. This was the last international competition launched by the French President Jean-François Mitterrand in 1991. This was an international competition that we won. This project was tribute to the Kanak culture. This culture is a very specific culture. A culture in which the tribe remain at the center of the social structure. Anthropology, tradition, and nature were the key contextual element that the project has to deal with. The project was a kind of reconciliation between tradition and modernity, as well as between technology and nature. This is the traditional Kanak construction hut that we call case in French, that means case. This is the way that usually they do their habitation unit, which is a very tall circular wooden structure, construction, and this construction unit was a reference for our project. This traditional hut inspired the use of wood for the project, as well as the morphology of tall buildings. The artisanal local know-how related to the use of natural material was also part of the cultural context. This is the Kanak traditional village, is always built on the crest of the hill with a central alley, and you have the quays in both sides of this alley, and then planted with columnal pine. This is the competition. I have the honor and the pleasure to be one of the two-person work on this competition, and all these are my hand drawing. I mean, this was before computer. In 91, we didn't have computer in the office, so this is it. And this was inspired from the original configuration of the Kanak village, as I said. We just start by locating the alley on the crest of the hill, and we use it as pedestrian circulation at the ground floor. At the same time, we have this technical spine in the below grade to irrigate the project in energy. Always from the competition, always hand drawings made. This is a typical section on the case as we did it during the competition. Then we come to the reality of the site. After the competition, when we won that, this is the 8-hectare site on the Magenta Peninsula, where elements like wind, water, light, and nature inspired the design. The traditional path was located on the crest of the hill, as you can see, where the place is really empty without trees. And after winning the competition, we understood that the site had two different sides. The site is not symmetric. We have one side opposite to the wind, towards the ocean, and the second side very mild towards the lagoon. In response to this site asymmetry, we decide to put the hut only on one side, back to the wind. I mean, to the asymmetry of the site, we decide to have a asymmetric project in opposition to what we had in the competition. So on one side, we have the case. On the other side, we had a flat roof with the rest of the program inside. This is, again, a second typology of section, showing the spine, pedestrian spine at the ground floor, which becomes technical in below grade. As I previously said, afterward, when we better understood the context and the reality of the site, we realized that the wind is coming from the ocean side. And we want to give meaning to the project to take advantage from this direction. So, to the site asymmetry, the architecture should follow the same concept. So we oriented the case toward the ocean and the flat roof toward the lagoon. Since the beginning of the project, we try to take advantage from the orientation of the case. So the case had back to the wind with the shape, the aerodynamic shape of this case. This creates a depression zone in the top of the case, which pull out the air from inside the case. And up to a little bit more than 1 meter per second wind speed, the system can work in natural ventilation between the depression and the fact that working like chimney, pulling out the air from inside the case. Below 1 meter by second, we have to help the nature. So the idea was to open a door and we create other pass-through inside. And the fact that you open the door to the pass-through is creating another way to ventilate the case. So this is a study model, was done at the competition level. It's very simple model. This is a more sophisticated model, more detailed one, was done in the lab and to test the aerodynamic effect with more precise measure. So as we can see, the morphology of the case and the fact that we place them only back to the wind, we were able to use the system as natural ventilation. Mock-up, prototype or mock-up are part of RPW process of design. So we did this mock-up. By the way, we have 3 types of case with 3 different heights, 18 meter, 22 meter, and 24 meters. And how we decide the material, it was very simple. Everything working in compression was in wood, laminated wood. And we had the choice between using Iroko or using the Jara. But because the Kanak culture originally came from Africa, We know that Iroko coming from Africa, Jara is coming from Asia. The decision was to go to roots and to choose the Iroko. Both, they have the same physical characteristic, but the project was achieved with Iroko. So everything working with compression was with wood, and all sophisticated piece working with torsion and tension was used in metal. So we have two rows of the interior series of columns and the exterior are connected together with a steel lace. These are some details showing what just explained, the connection between the wooden structure and these cast iron pieces. So all these pieces are casted in place. Again, about context, the mangrove was part of the existing local ecosystem and landscape. So we have really to work delicately in preserving this. Reason why the building was only built on the top of the hill where we don't have any trees. Other component of the context was the columnar pine, is the typical local tree in the region, and this for us was the natural context to be added to the project. So these traditional trees, highly present in the Kanak landscape, was another key element that the project has to deal with in order to enhance symbiosis between the construction and the nature. The project was generously planted around the new unit, creating harmony between the buildings and the environment. As a result, the project inspiration was influenced by social, cultural, traditional organization of the Kanak village, as well as materials, environment, and the natural context. Back to the wind, we can see another image to the case that seems unfinished, in progress like a shipyard. And this is a bit about poetry, because you know the difference between construction and architecture is when you add poetry to the topic. Otherwise, it's only about construction. So boat and naval construction are often used as reference in Renzo Piano Building Workshop works. This is a view night for the same project. Then this is another project. Here we are in the middle of nowhere. We are in Switzerland. This was for the Paul Klee Museum in Switzerland. The site is located outside of the city, as I said, in the middle of nowhere, in a landscape of gently rolling hills, close to the artist's tomb. That means the museum is Paul Klee, and they choose the site very close to the tomb of the artist. The natural context and the topology of the site had inspired the design of the museum. The idea was to approach the site more like topographer than architect, to create a new landscape, a sort of a ground movement of free waves or hill that house the program. The first one contained 300-seat auditorium and museum for children. In the middle, it contained the main exhibition space with temporary exhibition. And the third one contained works not on public display. It's sort of a center of study for Paul Klee works. This is a diagram showing the structural system of the three waves ground movement. These are the three waves placed on the site, and we see that it's like the site becomes a movement of three hills that house the program. We are very known to use the daylight. In all our museum, we use daylight. But in this specific project, and due to the sensitivity Paul Klee works, because they did a lot of work on paper, artworks were very fragile, and we decided for this project to not use daylight. Otherwise, it will be a nightmare to control the level of the intensity of the daylight to take care about the artworks. So the solution was to go with a solid roof. The roof was opaque, partially covered with earth and vegetation, emphasizing the symbiosis with the nature. This is a view from outside, where we see the three waves. The main structure is made with steel arches. Again, another view, and this is the south facade. We see that this is the only glass facade. It's protected with automated sunshade to protect from the sun. This is a view towards the entry to the museum, crossing the arches. This image shows the relationship with the landscape and how we move from landscape to opaque roof. This was taken early in the beginning, so the vegetation were not very present on the site. Again, another image. This is a view also from the roof from outside. This is from inside. We are in the bookstore here, big store. And this is a view of the 300-seat amphitheater. The red panel are all, as you can imagine, for acoustic regulation inside the room. Here we are in San Francisco. And this is the Academy of Science in the middle of the Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. The context was the nature, which imply a high sustainability design level. The project was also a renovation for an existing structure, some existing building. That means different buildings were together. We had to renovate and add building to that. So the idea was, in order to create a certain unity, we suggest to have a very large roof that unify the existing building and house the new program. Given the location of the building in the middle of the park, the idea was to create a green roof that seems floating above the park. It's a kind of urban umbrella that housed the program and protected from the exterior weather. The roof that expressed the shape of the interior space. That means the shape of the roof is like that because this is coming from the function that inside the building. It's like the function inside the building are deforming the roof to give it its appropriate shape. The idea is like cutting piece of the park, lifting up, and sliding the program underneath. So that the building seems part of the park, floating above the ground floor, about the green area in the park. The project is, the roof is a living space. This roof breathes, can take the air, can bring daylight inside the building, but can also provide natural ventilation for some specific function. The roof also, the thickness of the roof, because this is planted, is provide inertia for the building. This building has completed in 2008. This building is platinum LEED in 2008, and was the first building in the United States working in natural ventilation for the offices area. You know, given the fragility of the earth, it's our obligation to be very responsible and to be to take care about the sustainability of our building. Reason why, when we never decide to design a sustainable building. We just do it since the beginning, even before starting to talk with the consultant, because usually on the project we have a sustainability consultant. Even before starting with that, we start really we decide that this building needs to work with natural ventilation, with daylight, light harvesting, and geothermal, and solar energy. It's a complete part, a natural part of our process. At the same time, and because project is not only architecture, not only about designing building, but also about creating place, to promote human life within the parking. So we have to take care about creating correctly the place so people can enjoy life and the place could be adopted by the citizen. This is another scale. Here we are in Paris, near Centre Georges Pompidou Center in Paris, and this was the extension for the IRCAM is the Institute for Acoustic Research in Paris. Of course, the scale is very small, but the building was beside a brick building, and we need to think about extension on this small land beside this brick building. This is 1,300 square meter site, and we had to design sort of headquarter offices for the building. So to tie the building within the cityscape, the idea was to add two small towers, one completely in brick and the second one in glass. We decided to work with brick because we are beside a building in brick, but we didn't use the same existing system. What we did, we developed a completely dry assembly panels within a frame in aluminum on all these elements all tied together with a steel rod and assembled in the dry system. Reason why, when we say regionalism or critical regionalism, that's fine. But at the end, what you bring more to that? Because if at the end, it's easy to say, yeah, I did the project because I'm respecting the regionalism. I'm imitating what exists. I'm respecting the rule of the game. But then what you add to this project, in every project, even respecting the existing condition, we have to come with some technical solution with something new. So same material, same color to the adjacent building with different assembly technique. So this is showing the detail of the new assembly. You see that you have air. This is like a double skin. To the building skin, you add a second skin made with brick, which allow you to have the visual connection to the existing, and the rain can go behind this. It's like a raincoat. And these panels are assembled on the ground and then mounted on the facade. This is a completely different context. In the beginning, I intentionally talk about how to disobey and how to not respect. Here we are in Haussmannian context. Of course, this project was in '75. Now, what the context is this project is. This project, by the way, was done with Renzo Piano and Richard Rogers before Renzo created Renzo Piano Building Workshop, where I'm partner of. This was before I arrived to the office. So this project is not only about architecture, this is about manifest in architecture. It was manifest to declare the break between Les Beaux-Arts school and the new way to think about architecture. The context of this project was after '68. '68 was a social revolution, the student in Paris. They want to change the world. They want to change everything. At that time, you cannot come and say, look, I obey to the context, and I do Haussmannian building. Then it's nothing. You have to come with another story. So reason why I'm saying, you have what you see, and what you don't see, and you have to invent. So by the way, Picasso said, the essential is invisible for the eye. The essential, sometimes, is not what you see, is behind what you see. So the project, as I said, was a fundamental break in the French society history. Beaubourg was part of this revolution of the 68. It was a response against the Beaux-Arts in that time. The idea was to establish the idea wasn't to establish a harmonious relationship with the urban context. It was completely the opposite. It was to create a break, a divorce, to express this new era. The divorce was the old mentality, the Beaux-Arts conventional and academic way to make architecture and art, in dissociating several different disciplines. Beaubourg was also an extension of the Industrial Revolution era, which started with the Crystal Palace in the United Kingdom. It was also about creating place for people, because architecture, as I said, not only about designing building, but most importantly about creating place for people to promote urban and human life. And this is what Centre Pompidou did in this very dense urban context, with the creation of this very large piazza, because the building didn't take possession of the whole plot. The building, the project was designed in very condensed way to make free a piece, to give it back to the city, and to make it a meeting place for people. Here we are in Berlin, after the fall of the wall. The Potsdamplatz project was what I call the absence of any context. You are in the middle of nowhere after the war, and you have to think, which context here? What regionalism we can talk about? Which critical regionalism we can talk about that? The absence of the constraint, the absence of everything. So here we are in the middle of Berlin. Everything was destroyed during the bombing of the Second War. And until 1989 was no man's land, was completely empty. The only remaining contexts were the 2 rows of trees on the Alte Potsdamer Straße, this the red line. Only 2 rows of trees. This was left from the, and then we have a very small piece which we call the Weinheitshut in the beginning of the trees. And the third element was the Hans Scharoun Library, which is outside of the site. I mean, we have to deal with 3 existing elements and try to understand what we do. Then we decided, because in that area we had this rows of trees, this will be the pedestrian spine of the project. So the project starts from here. And instead of ending at the back of the Hans Scharoun, because at the end of the street, what we have in front of us, the library of Hans Scharoun, instead of ending face to the wall, we create a piece of the program, which was a theater and a casino from the other side, but it's like part of the Hans Scharoun project. That means it's like pretending that this was one mass, okay, divided, make it in harmony with what Scharoun did, but having with setback in such how that the street that we create, that we preserve, will end in the piazza, in the covered piazza in this area. So that the street ended in the covered square, which becomes the focal point of the project and the whole site. This is a view of the piazza, that means the end of the street. Instead of ending in the back of the Hans Scharoun, we end in this covered piazza between the theater and the casino. Then other context element in this empty space In Berlin, water lies near the surface. Here we were very close to the canal. And you know, architecture is also related to construction because sometimes the way you built it, you have to build it, imply a certain morphology of architecture. So here we were working in the water. We were putting concrete in the water. We were welding the steel for the foundation in the water. We had divers moving interior the side with a small boat, diving, welding steel, and pouring concrete. The context was also the river. The context was the water table. So things that have implication on the way that we decide to design the project. This is images of the one. We have 120 divers working on the site, and you see that both were moving inside. They work at 15-meter depth, immersed in the water, in total darkness, to pour concrete using their small boat. And because the water was part of the DNA of the place, we expressed the water and the surface to remind that we were in context where the water was very close to the site. So we create this quite of pond acting as unifying element and was set between Debis building and the theater. Back to Paris, another context where we are inside a Haussmannian building. In the middle, we have an empty space, and Pathé, which is a movie industry, they decide to create their foundation. So the idea was just to inhabit the existing space. It's like you take a balloon and you pull in, put air, and the balloon will take the shape of the place. Then, of course, we have people living beside. These people, they have windows. We cannot cut the daylight. So this balloon need to touch in very delicate way the existing building in order to not hide the daylight from the interior. The second important element is the main facade. This main facade is designed by Rodin. Rodin is nothing to do. It's completely landmark. You cannot shut the facade. You can do anything visible from the street touching the facade. Everything needs to be behind. So as you can see, the building will appear from the top. And because the program was mainly about archives, the building is mainly opaque. Only on the top, where we have the offices, the morphology of the building is changing, and it's going from opacity to transparency. So here the intention was to create a positive tension, a contrast with the surrounding building, in using different shape, which was an advantage to the project, and adding value to the concept as well as to the neighborhood, because you will see on the other image. So this is what we see from the street. Behind the Rodin facade, the building just appear. It's like raising behind. Here we are at the top. While the building is complete, you can see to the right, this strange animal stay away from the facade to keep daylight to the building through the windows. But on the top, on the left image, we see the top of the building where we have offices. Then the building changed morphology. The skin of the building becomes more transparent, while from the exterior, in order to protect the building from solar heat gain, we have perforated metal panel protecting the building. Here we are in another complete different configuration. So This is to explain that sometimes the context imply more than cosmetic exercise in imitating shapes or in using similar material and color, which is great, but unfortunately is not enough. In this specific location, we have La Maison des Avocats. It's the lawyer house in Paris. Was built near the Paris. By the way, we designed the Justice Palace. This is the courthouse that we designed. But beside this construction, that building is the lawyer house. And I will explain the situation. The building is located above the metro line number 13 and the axis of the metro number 14 on the left. And the place where in the lot we can anchor the building is very, very limited. You cannot touch the ground because you have the metro line passing. So the area where the building can be anchored to the floor, it's very similar. Reason why we decide to anchor the building where we can anchor, and all the rest will be in cantilever. So on 1,200 square meter, we have only 400 meter with a possible foundation. The 2/3 of the site was inappropriate for deep foundation. So as I said, the idea was to anchor the building where it was possible and to create a 26-meter cantilevered building above the two metros, 13 and 14. The building facade were designed as a beam. In order to hold the 26-meter cantilever, the building facade need to hold the building. They were designed like trusses connected to the core of the building, which were anchored in the middle. Additionally, the building has to deal with vibration issue related to the presence of post metro. So we don't have place to put foundation. We have to deal with vibration. We have to deal with noise. And we have to build the place, enough space for the lawyer headquarters. So the architecture expresses clearly the structure solution. Everything is visible. Nothing is hidden. And all this was oriented by the site condition, in other words, the context. Now we are in New York. This is the new Manhattanville, the new campus of Columbia University in Manhattanville. We see on the bottom Morningside campus. On the top is the new master plan. Is 9 blocks to the north. And the idea was to build a new campus, which should be perceived as completely independent campus and not a few buildings far away from the existing one. In this area, there is no context because this is the master plan. Very few buildings were existing. All the rest was completely demolished because they are unusable buildings. We have only some industrial building. We have a milk factory building. We have Nash building, which is a factory for cars. And we have another factory for building. So the DNA of the site, when we tried to understand what was the context here, we were a bit lost, not too much to anchor our project to it. Anyway, when we finished the master plan, Columbia commissioned us what we call the phase 1. The phase 1 was the number 1, which is the Jerome Green Science Center. It's neuroscience building. We have 2 Nobel Prize working inside, Richard Axel and Eric Kandel. We have 1,000 scientists. And this building is specialized in the behavior of the brain, called mind-brain behavior. The second building, number 2, is the School of the Art, or Lemphis Center for the Art. The number 3 is the Forum. And the number 4, it's still in progress. The site's still empty, but we are still thinking about. The site is bordered with two steel structured viaduct. You see the images below as part of the urban context. So the idea was to link these two bridges together. Reason why we decide that we will be expressing the building structure, we will be using the steel, we will be expressing the building structure in order to create context, to create a relationship between these two creators, the riverside bridges and the subway viaduct. So the urban component that define the industrial context character of the site, it's the NA. This is a view from the Jerome Green Science Center behind the elevated subway. And what we try to do is to expose the structure of the mind-brain behavior to create dialogue between the building and the context, the elevated subway. We see here, this is the side face to the subway, and we see all the bracing system was really projected to the exterior in order to create dialogue. So the building is not fighting with the context. The building is trying to live in harmony in his context, to create a quiet dialogue with the neighbor, which is the elevated subway. And this image inside the building where we create some double height space, was the break space for the scientists in order to enhance working together. We connect some levels of the building together. I'm showing this because geology sometimes is also part of the context. The rock was something like 270 meters, is more than 200 feet tall, is 70 meters. To get to the solid rock, we had really to dig 70 meters. And the basement was extremely expensive. So this element had implication on the building shape. Why? Because we had to work with slurry wall system. We had to drill piles 70 meters deep to meet the bedrock. And the geotechnical constraint associated with cost implication allowed us to use a more effective solution, which led us to move one mechanical floor from below grade and put it just above the ground floor. So the idea was to create a very transparent and permeable ground floor. And because this place is for work, since the beginning, we decided to take advantage from the daylight. We said this building is for work, then everyone needs to take advantage from the daylight. We decided that this building needs to be transparent. And we have the ground floor transparent and the building transparent. It was a good idea to put opacity in between to give the impression that the building is levitating above the ground. We see in this image also the CEP, which is the Central Energy Plant, which was located under the small square. And the small square is just in front of the second building, and which provide energy for the two phases of the project. So the blue area above the ground floor is what we took from the below grade, and we put it here. But we take advantage from this constraint in order to give more strength to the project. So this is a view from the Morningside Heights campus. This is Broadway, and to show the building insertion inside the cityscape. Additionally to the proximity, additionally to the geotechnical problem, we have to deal with another problem, which is the train that passed just beside the project. This constraint include vibration that we have to deal with. The structure need to deal with vibration, but most importantly is about acoustic. And in this case, acoustic was part of the context that the project has to deal with. Now, I hope we will have the sound. You will see, normally we have sound here. I hope you will have it. When the train will be passing, the level of acoustic will be 88 decibel. Will be able to hear or not? So I remember I was giving interview to the TV here, and then when the train passed, they were obliged to cut because we were not hearing each other. I said, okay, keep this in mind. Remind me when we go up. So I hope you will be able, maybe not. Sorry? No? Okay, it's coming. So this is, when you are in the ground floor, this is what you hear. This is just beside the stop of the train. Acoustic level is 88 decibel. By the master plan, we have to cut this by 50%. We are not allowed to have more than 44 decibel inside. So I was saying this is a place for work. I was saying that we need to take advantage from daylight, and we go with transparent building. So this transparent building has to deal with this constraint. Reason why we create a double skin, 16 inches double skin facade, which stopped 50% of the noise coming from the exterior. And of course, this was made with low iron glass, annealed glass for perfect flatness of the exterior wall. We avoid to use tempered glass to avoid waving. And we avoid the heat strengthened on the exterior in order to avoid anisotropy effect. Many of you who know very well about the glass, they know that the waving and anisotropy could be a big problem with glass building. So no tempered and no heat strengthening. We go with laminated glass and annealed, annealed, yes. Then this is what we hear where we are inside. Thanks to this double skin, it was possible to achieve an acoustic mitigation of 50%, to go to 44 decibel inside. Normally now we will see the train passing, and you see the difference between when you are on the street level and when you are inside. Will come. I'm sure will come. So you will see this is. So again, the project response is not only about the shape, it's not only about the material. The project needs to deal with some contextual constraint that coming from something else, from the technique. And in order to achieve this acoustic mitigation, this double skin has to be sealed. But when the double skin is sealed, you are creating solar heat gain inside. So we have to solve this second problem that we created. So the building was done. In relationship to the location of the sun, we put the double skin. On the north facade, which was impacted by the train, we had the double skin, but no exterior shade. On the right side, this facade is exposed to acoustic problems and for solar heat gain. So we have to deal with solar heat gain. And we see that on the bottom, which is also the south facade, we have the double skin because all this facade is impacted. So this double skin was done with 2 layers of glass. In between, we have motorized sunshade that work with a cell on the roof. When the facade is exposed to the sun, the shade will drop down immediately. And when the sun is away, the shade will go up. In addition to the exterior shade in the both cavity, we have an interior shade, an automated shade to deal with glare. because sometimes you can easily have a sunny day where the glare is too strong and the scientist cannot work on computer. But sometimes maybe you have a cloudy day. So if you design the facade to deal only with one condition, then you have to suffer when this condition change. So when you have a cloudy day, you raise up the shade and you take fully advantage from the daylight. So this is the section showing the building envelope fitted, as I said, with the automated system and the cavity, and the interior one was the glaze. And both systems are managed with the BMS, the building management system that allow for light harvesting. That means the level of the light inside the building will change in relationship to how much you cut from outside. When you drop down the shade, the interior lighting will increase. And when you raise the shade, you have too much light, the interior light will drop down, so you can save energy. In addition to this, we have sensor in the space. When the space is not used, the light will drop down. And immediately, once someone will get inside the space, then the level of the light will be increased inside the space. Okay, I said we are creating solar heat gain, and someone will say, okay, how you solve it? Very good. Here we have a lab, and we have 6 times air exchange inside the lab. 6 times an hour, this is by regulation, we have to change the air inside. Usually this air is going to the machine, 3 times filtered and dehumidified. And then usually this air is going to the street. In this specific case, we send the air, the very clean air, in the bottom of the double skin, and will travel to the top of the building with very low speed, is about half a meter per second, in order to avoid creating vibration in the shade and to distract the scientist. So in the summer, this will protect from the solar heat gain with the shade. The double skin and the shade will protect from solar heat gain. And the winter will keep the warm inside and protect from the cold, because this is a buffer zone between inside and outside. As a result of the whole context, I said acoustic, geothermal, geotechnique, and the building high performance envelope, which is an active double skin facade, mechanically ventilated, designed as acoustic and thermal buffer, maximizing daylight level to create a visual comfort indoor environment while achieving light harvesting and reducing energy in the building. Here we can see the 3 first buildings of the phase 1. We see the Jerome Green Science Center, the Lemphis building, and the forum. Just to finish, this is the last slide, I would like to say this is when semantic and function are leading together in response to the surrounding context. Transparency was used for spaces that need daylight, in this case, labs and offices, and the opacity was used where the space does not require any daylight.
Thank you very much to our esteemed speaker, Antoine Chaaya, for sharing all important points about architecture and context. We couldn't agree more that context is an inescapable term when we talk about architecture in conversation. And the direct components that you mentioned, indirect components, are also very important in architecture. And next will be the Q&A session, which I believe everyone is waiting for. This session will be moderated by Ms. Nichamondet Prasert, lecturer at King Mongkut's University of Technology, Thonburi.
Yeah, hi. Hi again.
Hi.
Right, thank you so much for such an inspiring talk.
Thank you.
And very fascinating. So I'm actually from the interior architecture background. I'm just wondering, like, since you play like shuffle with a lot of context, especially your projects are based in many countries, also continents, what do you find like the challenges in those kind of adapting to different contexts in different projects, especially when you're based in Paris and sometimes you have to go to maybe China or Japan, how you kind of learn to discover those contexts?
Good question, but this is what architecture is about. We don't design a building in Paris as we design it in New York or somewhere else. We have to learn. For example, for the New Caledonia project, when we start the competition, we were working with an ethnologue, Alban Bensa. In the beginning of the project, we asked someone to come and to assist us to learn about the culture. Because the question is not only about making buildings. You can always make buildings. But you need a building that could be adopted by the community, by the culture. And you know, this is what architecture is about. It's about the geography, it's about social, about art and science and culture. We have to listen. Architect need to be a good listener. Good listener to learn before acting. I remember when Renzo won the Pritzker Prize, and he gave a speech at the White House to the President Bill Clinton, he said something very true. He said that architect could be a very dangerous species for the society. Because you know why? A writer can write a book and you cannot read the book. A musician can compose a music that you are allowed to not listen in. But an architect who will be designing a building, very big building, will be standing for 100 years, and every day you are obliged to pass by and to look at. If this building is ugly, will be very dangerous. So
That's true. Yes, something that is not like alienate, being like an alien into the existing context, right? To build something that kind of harmonize into the site context.
yeah, I mean, the question of the context is very delicate. Very delicate. Reason why I went beyond what is visible, because many things can have implication on the project. It's not only what you see, as I said. Picasso said the essential is invisible for the eye. That means the example I show. Some are obvious. That means the New Caledonia is more obvious because you see the morphology of the building. Inspiration can come from their culture. But in other contexts where the absence of context, in Berlin or in New York, where you don't have anything. If you work in Paris, the first thing, if you have the freedom, you can respect the Haussmannian geometry, okay? But in the building we built, you cannot build Haussmannian inside because otherwise you don't have light, you don't have anything. So it's very delicate.
That's nice. And then, so mentioning, you also mentioned on like your office also practicing on the sustainability since before you hiring the consultant on sustainable, right? Like at that time, why do you think that sustainable is important for you as being an architect?
You know, we have all to recognize the fragility of the earth. We have to be conscient. We have to stop ignoring this issue. And as I said, we never decide to be sustainable. We just breathe in sustainable way. So since the beginning of the project, we decide to work with solar panel. And I'm not talking about being fashionably explicit. It's, for example, I didn't show everything. We did a project for the Niarchos Foundation in Athens, where we have a canopy of 100 meter by 100 meter fitted with solar panel. This is 1 hectare of solar panel. It produced 2.5 megawatt hour, which allow us to making work the opera house and the National Library with one condition, that there is no performance in the opera house. The opera house is here, you have many places, but you don't have performance. Now I'm starting a new project in Florida, in Boca Raton, which is 1 hour from Miami. And we said Boca Raton, Miami, is the country of the sun. So the first things, we need to take advantage from the sun. We decide we will have also something like 1 hectare of solar energy, but we are working with a new generation of solar panel. They are not solar panel, they are sort of tube, 20 centimeter diameter. Inside you have some solar panel and outside you have mirror. And the same system will produce electricity and hot water in the same system. So we explore always geothermal. Geothermal is essential. You can have, you know, beyond 1 meter, below 1 meter on the Earth, the temperature of the Earth is stable, is 10 degrees. If outside you have 35, it's enough to circulate the air or the water. You can use both systems in the air, and then you will get something at 10 degrees that you can use it. In the winter, if you have outside, you have 5 degrees, and you go through the Earth, you will gaining 5 degrees. So geothermal is very important. In our project also, we work where it possible with natural ventilation. Because during I know in some countries you have hot and humidity, but you have at least maybe 6 months a year where you can use natural ventilation. So why we don't do it? Daylight, light harvesting, where maximize the use of the daylight. So you can use light harvesting. Ice storage, we can produce ice during the night. You store the ice during the night and you use it for energy during the day. Heat recovery unit in order to not lose anything from the energy. And then, of course, you can work with local material as much as possible. Sometimes it's not possible for the New Caledonia because they want the wood to come from Africa, so we cannot, we have also to respect. This is about culture, it's very sensitive. But when it's possible to work with local material to save in the transportation would be also helpful. Then the roof. The roof, if you use it for solar energy or you planted roof, you will be reducing the effect of the hot island inside the city. So instead of reflecting the energy to the sky and warming the neighborhood, you absorb this energy and you reduce the heat effect island within the city.
So basically, like the context and for the city projects and in the urban, in the landscape project is totally different lanes to look at.
Of course, yes.
So now, do you have any question from the audience?
Okay. So thank you for your inspiring presentation. That shows so many, several projects that deal with different contexts. I just would like to ask, in Bangkok, in the past few decades, there are a different kind of approach for the context. Especially for the commercial, extra large commercial projects, it has a kind of approach that trying to, look at me kind of culture and ignore the context, trying to address itself without concerning much about the context. So if you got that kind of project, that kind of brief, how is your approach going to be for that kind of, brief and requirement from client?
Okay,
thank you.
So you will oblige me to confess something. And please, don't take it as arrogance. Don't take it as pretension. Usually, the architect is selected by the client. We are the sign of architect that we are selecting our client. Reason why, our pride is building open to public. We avoid very much as much as possible commercial building, in the sense that we don't do very often commercial building. We do a lot of cultural, educational, headquarters. We build building for people, but not for commercial, only pure commercial purpose, or for speculation. And it happened to us to work on commercial building, but then you need to have very good client who is open to come with something outstanding, thinking out of the box. But if the client is only keen about commercial project, we just not the right architect for him. And this is what we explain to him. We'll say, look, we are not the right architect for you, but we can help you to find someone else. And then we know people, they accept to do it. I'm saying this really in very, very humble way because we are not good to make a commercial project. We are not good. We don't know how to do it. But if the client is open-minded, if the client, to make a good project, if you have a good architect, this would help. But it's not enough, believe me. You need good client. You need someone to give wings to the project. If you have in front of you someone is cutting wings, does not understand the vision, does not follow the vision, forget it. You can be genius, you will not be successful. And if we have some exceptional project, is only because we had some exceptional client. And Renzo is keep saying that the project is the portrait of the client. You have exceptional project, behind you have exceptional client who really follow the vision, okay, and go beyond only slot machine how to make money. So I'm sorry, but I'm very honest with this is the reality.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more question from the audience?
Thank you very much for the talk. Actually, I've been looking at all the projects. I just had one feeling that is extremely different from our context is that when we are working on projects, we often deal with like budget constraints. Like we have a lot of projects that we want to achieve something. The client wants to achieve certain things, but we are limited with the budget. So perhaps some like advanced technologies or expensive materials cannot be utilized. I just want to know whether you ever experienced such kind of projects, but then still pull it through and then did a great job or anything like that. Yeah.
It's very tough. I didn't hear the question. You heard the question?
Okay.
Can you say it
okay.
slower?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Let me repeat again.
Yeah.
So we always work with projects with a lot of budget constraint, like not enough money to construct the building with the material, be it the material we want or the technology that we would like to implement. So I just wonder whether, like, if that happens to Renzo Panel Building Workshop, what would you do, or whether you have ever experienced that before, like not enough budget for the construction?
Is your question about high-tech and low-tech?
About cost, construction cost.
Construction cost. Okay, so, we are very often very close to the cost. But let's say, what does mean cost? Cost mean, usually, at the end of the schematic design, we had cost estimation. We don't have cost in the beginning, okay? And then at the end of the construction, the schematic design, we have cost estimation. And then with the client, we decide what is the physiognomical cost of this project. That means if you work on commercial project, you decide that this is $500 square foot or per meter or 400 or 800, you put a number. This is commercial, and then you say, okay, beyond this, my business plan is not working. This is when you deal with commercial project. But when you deal with educational or cultural or other typology of project, then this need to be physiognomical. That means the cost need to be agreed on the base of a vision. You need to have a vision. Let me give you an example. When we decide to design the Niarchos Foundation in Athens, the client came to us and said, look, I would like to offer my city, this is Niarchos Foundation, to offer the Greece or the Athens, the Opera House, a national library. And they put something like $450 million or whatever. And then working together with him on the vision, we convinced him that the project is where we are, because the name of the site mean Belvedere. That means a place where you see the city. But this is the name of the site. But the site was so low, we told him, look, we have to create a park. We have to create a park so you can offer your city as a park. And under this park, we can put the library, and we can put part of the opera house. So we ended by creating 17 acres park planted in the middle of the city. Okay? And this, of course, this part of the vision on which he was completely in agreement. And here, how we can call in the beginning, we cannot estimate this. We had to make a vision, working with the client. He agreed on the vision. We give it to cost estimator. We cost it. And then, of course, at a certain moment, we have value engineering system. We have to go through value engineering. And you find savings where you can. Did I respond? Did my response was?
Okay. So any questions? Any more questions from the audience?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us projects from a very diverse set of backgrounds, right? Like from the islands in New Caledonia to Paris and New York, and also that quote from Renzo when he won the Pritzker Award, right? But my question is something along that line and something to do with scale, because in this part of the world, there are cities are a mix of like very, very different scales. Like even in Bangkok, you have 2-story shop houses next to like 40-story high-rise buildings. So in the case where the brief somewhat requires something that might not be so in the same scale as the rest of the surroundings, how would you deal with it? Or if there's any experience that you can share with us? Yeah, that's my question.
I'm trying to understand. Your question is the scale of the building in relationship to the context. Is that the question?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. We are very sensitive to this question, extremely sensitive. So when the program allow us, we prefer low building, very low building as much. Our idea is when you plant, that means you can plant trees at 12, 15 meters. A few years after, trees could come to 20 meters. So we believe that 20, 24 meters is the right height for buildings. When it is possible, we do only 3 floors plus ground floor, okay? But sometimes when you have a tower, like the Shard in London, for example, the Shard is 330 meters. So how you can do there? They come to us. They don't have even the land because we built the Shard on the rail track, okay? And they need this program. So here you have no choice. When we built the New York Times building in New York, they asked for a tower because the plot was small and they are allowed to build high. So, for example, recently, last year in Paris, we won an international competition for the largest hospital in France. It's 200,000 square meter built-up area, 1,200 bed. And the site was very large. We decided to compact the building in order to free up a space for a urban forest. We create an urban forest in order to create a buffer zone between the hospital and the neighbor. In addition to this, we were allowed to add additional floor, which we did not. We didn't add that floor in order to plant the roof with trees. So we calibrate the height of the building to disappear within the trees in 10, 15 years, 20 years, why not? So the scale is very important. We are not looking to design arrogant building. When the program allow us, we love to make small building, low building, but sometimes it's beyond our control because the program ask or call for larger building.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Any more questions from the audience? No. Yeah. Okay. ได้เชิญเลยค่ะ
Okay, it's me again. Yeah. In your presentation, we have seen a lot of sophisticated drawings that show, various disciplines in your team. It must be a big team. I believe there are like facade specialists and also maybe a lot of building technology technician. Could you please elaborate a bit more on how your team work together, please? Yeah.
Yeah. There are two things. First of all, we are extremely curious people. We would like to know everything about everything. We put our fingers within every topic. We are extremely involved in engineering of the building, structure and MEP and sustainability in everything. Having said this, we work with very good engineer. We have very good consultant, but sometimes we even challenge our consultant because sometimes the consultant will apply what he has in the book. And sometimes you have to come out of the box and challenge them. For example, the question of the New Caledonia idea, we didn't come from the engineer. The New Caledonia idea came from the fact that we want to create a space that could be recognized and adopted by this culture. And we said how we can take advantage from this shape. So the shape is not only formal. We start by having the construction on both sides, and then we said, no, this is a copy. You create a very direct relationship with the culture. So let's thinking in a more intelligent way. Put the case where they can work in natural ventilation. So the architect has to be curious. Yesterday, they asked me a question about education also and how you train people. And I said that in our selection, it's very important to see curious people coming to the office. We very much insist on the curiosity. Because you cannot you can't touch people. Teaching is not about filling a vase. It's about lighting fires. The most important things is how to make from young people curious people that they love to learn and to search beyond what is visible and what they know. And this is what creativity is about. Creativity is about watching in the dark. If you know where you are going, if you are afraid about making mistake, you will not creating anything new. To create, you have to accept some time to not know where you are going and to say, oh my gosh, I'm a bit lost. But this will not be for a long time. Then try to watch in the dark. In watching in the dark, at a certain moment, you start to see some light because your eye will adapt to that. So when you are in a situation where you are completely lost, you have to try to see the problem from another corner.
And this is about also lateral thinking. What lateral thinking is about is sometimes you don't respond to the question, or you give the wrong discussion, or the wrong answer to some question, but what you said will open door to other words. And in our office, for example, the good idea doesn't come always from Renzo. Many times the idea comes from other people around the table. Someone say the idea, but maybe the idea was misunderstood. Someone will say, oh, no, wait. What he said is important if we put it in this context, okay? So we are curious, but we have very good consultant with who we work, and it's good marriage between us and our consulting. It's good wedding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I would say, like, based on the beginning of your presentation regarding to the direct and indirect context component you mentioned, do you normally use that lens to look at each project as a starting point? Like, different project might come up with a different context components.
You know, when you come to a site, the site will inspire you. Marina talked this morning. I agree completely. That means the DNA, the starting of the project at the site. We start by visiting the site. You will come, the site will inspire you. The genius loci, what we call le génie du lieu in French, is the genius of the site will talk to you. You will learn. You will watch and see what do you see. And then the best idea would be to create a dialogue with the existing conditions, not to fight. It doesn't make. But the only exception was I did it intentionally, was Centre Pompidou. Because in this, the context was something else, another story to tell. It was the revolution of the 68. It was the revolution against the Beaux-Arts to say, stop. Renzo keep telling the story of when he and Richard Rogers won the competition, they were hated by people. They were hated by people. And Renzo had a very weak French at that time. He could express himself. He didn't understand everything. So he started to speak and to smile, and people were so angry. So he understand when they were angry because they start to launch tomatoes on him and to say, go away, we don't want your project. One time I remember I took the taxi from the office to the airport. And the guy said, okay, you are Renzo Piano, so what you do? You produce pianos? I said, no, we are architect, we don't do. Okay, so architect, what you do? I mean, I had the bad idea to say, you know, we do some buildings, we design building. For example, the Centre Pompidou, he stopped the car, watched to me and said, you designed this horrible building? So it's, but I intentionally show that to say that sometime, in wise way, you have to disobey. This doesn't happen every day. Happen when you make a revolution. And you can like or dislike a Pompidou Center, but this is a step you have before the center and after the center. People, this start a step in the history of the architecture.
Well, working on a piece of, architecture, very landmarked buildings like this, it's definitely a collaborative effort, right? Lots of people are working on this project. And within Renzo Piano building workshop itself, I assume that there are design teams and design leaders. Then, of course, there's Mr. Renzo Piano. How much does that collaboration with Renzo Piano, it's still part of the design process, and how does that collaborative effort work between the lead designers and Mr. Renzo Piano himself?
I'm working with Renzo Piano since 37 years. I mean, he doesn't need to talk with me. He can breathe in front of me. I understand immediately. He can start the sentence. I can finish. Okay. How the office is organized? In the office we have 8 to 10 partners. It depends.
including the founder, which is Renzo Piano. Then we have a second level, which we call associate. And then we have the architect and the office. But Paul can say, please say if I'm wrong. When we are working, there's no hierarchy. Sometimes Renzo can say something and say, wait, stop. I disagree with you. This is what I think. And this is a discussion. It's complete. We do what we call design review from time to time. The partner with Renzo and the design team who is working on project, they ask a second opinion. Because sometimes working on the project, they don't see what is not working. And sometimes you come from outside and you say, wait, you don't think that you are complicating too much things? You don't think that this is out of context? And then you may not respond exactly to the problem, but they will say, oh, look, maybe he's right on something. And so it's a sort of really a very strong collaboration. There is no someone who will be deciding and other will be following. There is no hierarchy. Paul was in the office, I was the partner, she was working with me, but she was not going through 10 people to talk to me or to talk to Renzo. Okay, Renzo is not very often in the office, but she can come to me anytime without going through hierarchy. So it's quite flat organization. It's not pyramidal, okay? Of course, at the end, we have Renzo. If he is against something, we will be struggling. We have to find a way to be in line with him. And he is involved in every project. Today, we don't have very much project. We have between 25 and 30 projects only. But he is involved in every project, especially in the beginning. He does not know everything about every project, but he knows about the essential. Everything to do with the soul of the project, he will be aware about it, and he will follow. And you can be surprised if he can come later and say, okay, 1 year or 6 months, we talk about this detail. Can you show me where are we today? What happened with that detail? And usually in our way to work, our projects are quite simple in the shape, are more complex when you go to detail. That means the complexity, the simplicity of the scheme, and somehow you go from something very simple, not too much very sophisticated, but then you go sophistication in the detail and the technology and how to make it work in a more interesting way.
I'm glad you actually came to the details because that was going to be my second question. Yes, your buildings are mostly very simple forms and the details are quite incredible, to be honest. I've seen a few of them. Do you actually have a I wouldn't say standard, I would say prefer way that materials are joined together that everyone in the office kind of know, or certain sort of library where you actually can take the details and remodify to fit each specific project, or do you actually try to come up with new things all the time? Just like you said about curiosities and things before, right?
The idea is about research. It's more interesting. I mean, it's more interesting to find always something new. Don't copy yourself. Of course, we cannot invent the hot water every time. Sometime. Okay, we have guys, okay, we need to invent in that area the shape of the profile because we design all the profile of our facade. Everything is custom. We design the building scale 1:1. Myself, I work by hand. I'm old generation. I do detail scale 1:1 of some detail of the project. I do myself. I'm not a project manager. I'm a designer. I'm obliged to make management, but I came to the office at 8 o'clock of the morning or 8:15, where no one is here, to make drawings, to draw. So we are very much involved in the detail and the passion of the detail. This is a sort of disease in us. It's a sort of, it's a passion we can't control. We love, where we are stuck, where we don't know what to do with the general concept, we go to the detail
because the detail may lead you to somewhere. And when we are stuck with the detail, we go back to general vision. It's always between zoom in and zoom out to the project. And when you arrive to the end, every bolt in the project is detailed. And we leave never nothing to the site to discover. Everything is under control on the plan. Reason why we go with prototype, with mock-ups. We start with mock-ups. Mock-ups are, they show the size and the shape of the building, but not necessarily with the real material in order to save money. And then when we have the contractor, we go with prototype. And the second time, it happened to us to make the prototype, to review it with the client, and he said, I didn't understand that. I mean, I'm sorry, I saw on the plan, I didn't. So we have to change this. And sometimes some good decisions are made following the prototype or the mock-up works.
All right. Thank you. I think this is the end of the Q&A session. So thank you again, Antoine, for joining us at the ASA Forum today. And then also thank you guys to join our forum as well. So have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the thought-provoking and beneficial Q&A session. I'm truly inspired by the point our speaker mentioned that we should see the problems from another angle, see from the dark, and we just see some light from it because our eyes adapt to it. Every day is a new chance. On this occasion, I would like to invite Mr. ASA Sukhayang, President of ASA, to give a souvenir to our honored speaker. Please welcome Mr. ASA. We have learned a lot from our speakers and Q&A session today. Gain some inspirations to continue work hard on your projects. At the same time, our speakers also have special souvenir for ASA, the Association of Siamese Architects under Royal Patronage. Antoine Chaaya, our speakers, will give to Mr. ASA Sukhayang, President of ASA, the special souvenirs. At this moment, we will have group picture also. I would like to invite our moderator, Ms. Chamondet Prasert, to join the group picture section. Thank you very much. It's very important to design the architecture to fit in each environment. And this is the end of the second section. Please give our speaker and moderator a warm round of applause. And another group picture, I would like to invite our chairman of Architect 24 Expo to join the group picture section. Another group picture. Architecture is more than just building. It could create some meaning and connect to people in local as well. Thank you very much for the group photo session, and thank you very much our speaker, our moderator, for the inspiring section. This is the end of the second section. We will now have a quick break before the last session begins. Our last topic for today is socio-climatic spaces from our two founders of Charles, Daliana and Foreign. And we'll see you soon at 4:10 p.m. 4:10 p.m. We will now have a quick break. See you soon.